This is
Okay,
more awkward than I thought.
I know.
Hi, I'm Anna.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is the second episode of A 20 Something Take. This week's episode is all about this mentality or phrase called tomorrow is not promised.
Tomorrow's not promised. This is kind of a phrase that sums up 2020 for me and Rachel almost. But I guess I'll talk a little bit about like how we came up with the phrase in the beginning. So it was actually back in January this year when it was the passing of Kobe Bryant, and the UCLA gymnastics team had an Instagram post in honor of him, and the caption said like, today we're reminded that tomorrow is not promised, and we're very like thankful for all our moments together. And then I saw that post and I was like, whoa, like tomorrow is not promised. Like those words are actually like very deep in this, whether it's like this context of like life and death, but also like how we should be living our everyday. And then so the next time I saw Rachel when we hung out for her birthday, I kind of shared that phrase with her.
So for my birthday, we went on a hike in Griffith Park in LA. And if you guys have ever been like hiking in LA, you might know it's like kind of a dry desert like landscape. So there's like not much to really see. So you spend more time talking and just like talking with the other person that you're walking with. And so Anna shared with me like the quote of like tomorrow is not promised. And we were just talking about it and she showed me the Instagram post and we were like, dang, this is like very deep and like meaningful, but we were also like laughing at it because like not to like make light of the situation because obviously like Kobe Bryant dying was like very tragic and like terrible, but I guess we also thought it was funny because it was like a new adaptation of like the word YOLO in a weird sense. It's like you only live once, but now it's like tomorrow is not promised. And like so we kind of like adopted the motto and we sort of analyzed it a little bit and we'll give you some context about like what we think it kind of means. But I don't know, we thought it was just kind of like a funny way to like interpret what is going on, and then we also applied it to the whole like coronavirus situation too, because that was something that was just beginning at the time when we were back in like January, February, and like we knew like the coronavirus was happening, but we didn't really know the extent to which it would be like it would impact all of our lives because it was still happening in like China or like Italy, but we were like, oh, we're fine here in America, like it hasn't really hit us yet and hadn't really like we hadn't really felt the severity of the whole thing. So then basically what happened was like when we like adopted this term, we were like tomorrow really is not promised because like all these things can happen and like our lives could be changed forever. Okay, well, I guess we can also share like our own interpretations of what like tomorrow is not promised means to us and like how we've applied it in our lives. But I can talk first about like how me and Anna, like how we personally sort of adopted the motto and then like we started hanging out a lot more, I guess, like winter quarter, towards the end of winter quarter, we like had weekly brunches and we did a lot of fun things. I know we went hiking and then we also went roller skating and we tried to like go outside of our comfort zone. We created like a bucket list of things that we wanted to do, like the undie run or other things at UCLA. But like sadly we didn't actually get to do like a chunk of them because of the coronavirus, but we were still able to like have that mentality and like try and translate it into some of our experiences on a day to day.
It's important to just like have that mentality because I think we don't have to literally think about it like tomorrow, like just like tomorrow, but like if you like make the most out of every day that you have, then like when you look back, you will have done a lot. So like even in like quarantine right now, like I know some people are like, oh, like every day just feels the same. Like it's just about like yesterday, today, and tomorrow. But I think like even in quarantine, like you can still do things that are like closer to what you would usually do or like get you closer to your goals. So I think like if we just kind of make the most of every day, then you're already like embracing that vibe.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like also like you mentioned, how like you can even do things in quarantine to like get yourself closer to goals or like get yourself like following that mentality. And I think it can be literally anything. Like for me today, I curled my hair, which is like not very significant at all, but like it's something I would honestly like. I don't know how many times you've ever seen me curl my hair, Anna, but it's very rare, very rare. And so today I was like, you know what, I need to like practice curling my hair. Like I haven't done it in forever, and it's like a skill that like I wouldn't normally do if I didn't have time, but now that I have time on my hands and I'm like, okay, like let's do it. Like why am I waiting? Like now is the time to do something. But it can also be, you know, more serious, like applying for jobs, which is like I've got like an Excel sheet or whatever, and I've got like all these jobs that I'm applying to. But it can also be like for me, I really like to do creative work and like creating videos. So I've been trying to like create more videos for my YouTube channel, or like creating even like this podcast. I feel like is really fun. It's like a way to like exercise our creative chops and like also, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily getting us closer to our goals, but it is a goal in my sense to like document our college experience and document some of our memories and our good times. So like I think in a way it's also helping us get there. So if you think about like literally tomorrow is now a promise, it's like a little extreme, but like you can do small measures or small things on a day-to-day to like help you get there too. So even in quarantine, that is possible, which is good. Yeah. I'm trying to think like, do we have other examples of how tomorrow is not promised is like manifested in our life, I guess?
For the both of us right now, like definitely our senior year of college. Like I think because we put so much like emphasis on the last quarter, like, you know, like grad pics, commencement, you know, hang out with your friends for the last time, going to like senior send off things or like banquets for your clubs, things like that. So I think like that's what makes it's almost like we put too much emphasis on like where we're going to end up. And so we didn't really like enjoy or like look back on what we did do like the first 2 quarters of senior year. But like now when I think about it, I'm like, wait, I actually like had a bunch of fun. I have a ton of memories to look back on. Like I took a bunch of photos and videos of my senior year. And I'm like super glad I did that because I'm like, now when I look back, I have these things to look back on. So I think it's like also being grateful for what you've had so far. And then, you know, a lot of things aren't promised. And I think we feel entitled to certain things. That's why we were like upset. But I think if we like let go of that and think like, you know, we still have so much time, or hopefully we have a lot more time to do a lot of things that we want. And like, as we said previously, like if we just, you know, do a little thing every day, then we can still get to those things.
Yeah, that's actually so true. I think I put a lot, like I planned a lot for my spring quarter of senior year. I was like, okay, these are all the things I'm going to do. Like I'm going to travel with my friends. We're going to do all these like fun things. We're going to like check off the bucket list, like that we wanted to do. But it's like, you know, you don't have to wait until then to do them. And that being said, it's like, you know, like tomorrow isn't promised, so you know you got to like take each day as it is, and be like, if there is an opportunity that comes up and like today is a good day to do it, like don't put it off. Like if you can do it now, like do it. Like and yeah, and I think that's true also that you mentioned that we felt like sort of entitled to all of these things that like we were planning for spring quarter and then they didn't happen because of coronavirus. I think I spent a lot of time just like initially when I realized that I wasn't going to go on these trips, or I wasn't going to be able to like hang out with my friends and enjoy my senior year the way I wanted it to. I was like pretty bummed. Like I was like for like a solid couple weeks, I would just be like, wow, like my life would have been so much better had like coronavirus hit like, okay, maybe like fall of 2020 rather than like when it was like March 2020. Like I could have gotten all the fun things I wanted to do out of the way. Like I could have had a great summer before working. And I don't know, I think I spent a lot of time like wallowing and like kind of just being like, this is such a downer. But you also have to like weigh and take into consideration, like, even if it had happened in the fall, like we probably would have had plans then too. And like we're probably looking forward to certain things in that fall as well. So I guess you just kind of have to be like, yeah, you have to keep in mind like every day you gotta like seize the day or whatever, and like, you know, kind of keep that mentality up in life, and you know, not just be like, I'll do it eventually, but actually do it.
One of my friends, we did like Secret Santa, but then she did hers late. And so she got me this 1 line a day book or like journal basically on for New Year's. And so basically the book is a 5-year journal. So it has like every day on it, and you just like write down, it's like a few lines a day that you write down what you did that day. And I think it's a good thing to like keep me in check, because I know some days when I like fill it out, I have absolutely nothing significant to write. Like I just write like, oh, I woke up, I studied, I ate dinner with my family, and that's it. And I think it's like okay to have those days. Like not every day is gonna be great. It's not like once we have this like tomorrow's not promised mentality, then like every day is like filled with so much to do. But some days we don't, and it's okay. But it's like you don't want to have so many of those days that you only have so little like fulfilling days. And so I think like when quarantine started, like some days I would have a lot more interesting things to put in there. Like, oh, like today I FaceTime my friends and we talked about certain things, or me and Rachel started our podcast, and then we like I kind of wrote down about like how we like start designing things. And so it's like just keeping track of little things you do every day. And I think it's really helped me like reflect on what I've done and just take advantage of this time.
But yeah, I think that's like really interesting though, that like you have that sort of 5-year journal and you're able to like document everything like one day at a time. I think that's really cool, because I know you also like have a jar and you like keep little notes about like memories and things that have happened. And I feel like I personally like need to do a better job of that. Like when I was younger, I used to do diaries and things like that. But I could just never find the motivation to like do it consistently. Like I would do it for a couple days or a couple weeks, and then I would just fall off the grid. And then a couple weeks becomes like an entire year, and then I'm like, wow, it's been an entire year since I've last journaled. But I think it's a really good thing to have, because I think it puts things into perspective, and it's a nice way to document like everything that's been happening to you. And like I personally love reading my old journals, like even though I didn't very consistently journal, but like on the days that I did, I loved to like read them and be like, wow, like LOL. And I think it's just funny because like the things that were so like important to me at that time, I like laugh about now. Like the things that I thought were like the end of the world when I was journaling, I was like, oh my God, like this boy, like I can't with him, blah, blah, blah. And then like I look back now, I'm like, wow, he's not even relevant anymore. So like, I don't know. It's just like those like little things. But I think journaling and like documenting your day-to-day experiences, that like really puts things into perspective, which is good. And it reminds you like, yeah, tomorrow's not promised, but also, yeah, you have to like think about things in the long term too. Well, you have a playlist actually, right, Anna?
Oh yeah. So after me and Rachel hung out on her birthday, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a new Spotify playlist. It's gonna be called Tomorrow's Not Promised. And the playlist consists of a bunch of like hype songs, or just not necessarily hype, but just like good mood songs, or like get you pumping, that type of thing. So
Heck yeah.
I listen to those when I'm like doing my makeup, or get up in the morning and like don't want to like start off my day, and I'm like, let me just listen to some good vibes.
Yes, some good vibes. I feel it. Okay, I guess we can also discuss like the meaning of tomorrow is not promised. So we talked about it in the context of like college and like quarantine, but I guess in like post grad life, maybe once things settle down, like how do you think that motto is going to affect us? Like once we start our jobs or something like that, and our like regular 9 to 5, I guess, like how are we going to implement this sort of tomorrow is not promised mentality?
I think, okay, I mean, we're not there yet, but I can already see that I am not going to enjoy adult life in the sense that like work is different than school so much. Like you have responsibilities. It's not like you have breaks here and there. So I feel like even the tomorrow's not promised mentality is like even more important in adult life. I think, you're the free time you have is between like the time you get off work and the time you go to bed, which is like not that much time compared to like what we have now when we have like summers and breaks. And so it's just going to be like a few hours every weekday, and then you'll have the weekend. So I think it's like making the most of that time as well, whether it's like hanging out with friends or meeting up with people for dinner or making plans for that. Like it can't be as spontaneous, but you can still like put in the effort to do those things. Like I had an internship over the summer, which was like a very classic, like 9 to 5. And I remember like after work, I would just want to go home and like respond to messages, eat dinner, shower, and go to bed and start off the next day because I would have to get up at 6:30 again. But I think like those hours I could have like, caught up with people more, not just like, oh, I'm tired, I'm gonna go home and just watch TV and go to bed. But if I actually like take that time to do things that I cared about and like not put those things off, then I would actually be living a much more fulfilling day. And when you look back, you'll have many more of those.
Yeah, I think it's important, especially, yeah, when working 9 to 5, like you mentioned, we really won't have that time to dedicate to our friends or our family or, whoever. But I think it's also important to spend time dedicating yourself to like passion projects or things like that, like things that make you happy. Um, I think not everyone gets to do what they love for their job. Like some people just end up having to do like, what makes money and like what makes the most sense at a certain time. So like, and even if you are doing something that you're passionate about like in terms of work for your job, like I think at a certain point it gets like tedious and you're like, oh my God, like this is work. Like it's very different from like things that you're passionate about. And like everyone has their like own individual hobbies and things like that. And I think it's important to really carve out time, especially when you're working on like a regular office job or something like that. That being said, I also think it's important, or I will, when I get there, if I'm like living at home or something like that, I think it's really important to carve out time for family. I think going to school and college and stuff like that, it's easy to like not forget, but like you don't live with your family and you're surrounded by your roommates and your friends like all the time. So you never really like sit down and like have a meal with them or anything. So like when I do go home for like even breaks and stuff like that, I really value like hanging out with my parents and my sister. And like I guess as I get older, I realize, like it's as cliche as it sounds, like they won't be around forever. And if I am living at home and like working a 9 to 5, I think it's important to like spend time with them and make time for them too, because my parents are getting older, they're not getting any younger. And I think, I think I want to like value that, because if I look back in 10 years from now and I'll be like, if there's something I regret, like I'd want to like make sure I had as much possible time as I could have had with my family and like learning from my parents as well, because I think there's still so much I can learn from them, even though they are like a different generation and sometimes like we disagree on like maybe political views or social views, but like I think there's still so much to learn just from them as people. Like in college you learn about like I don't know, for me anyway, I learned about like communication and like mass media or like journalism, but like no one teaches you finance, like, or basic finance, like taxes or like other things. So I'm like, like I think there's still a lot of value, like spending time with your family, because like in high school I was like cognizant that I didn't know those things, but I also like did not really care that much because I was like, I'm going to college, like whatever. And now that I've graduated, I'm like, what is insurance, like what is like what's a good health insurance, like what's good car insurance, I don't really know, like all these like different things. So I think I still have a lot to learn from my parents, and I think that's something I would definitely want to like make time for as well, in that post-grad period if I get a job. Anyway, to wrap up this episode, I guess we'll just kind of leave you with some final thoughts about tomorrow is not promised and the phrase. We've sort of adopted it into our own lives, but I think for everyone, it's an individual journey, and like take what you will of it. Yeah.
I think, everyone has their own interpretation and everyone lives a different, none of our journeys are like a certain mold. Like everyone's in different places, no matter like what age you're at. And so it's like finding what's important for you and like making sure you know what your own priorities are. Like, for me and Rachel, a lot of it is like people we care about, spending time with those people, like spending time like with ourselves and like doing our hobbies, passions, things like that. But I know everyone has different responsibilities now. And so it's like finding what is worth your time and making sure that you're using that time. In 10 years, you don't want to be somewhere that you just kind of settled for. It's like some place that you worked hard to be. This is where you actually want to be, and you did those things to get there.
Wow, that was like so inspiring. I'm like, damn. So that is it for this week's episode. We hope you guys enjoyed and learned a little bit about the phrase that we call tomorrow is not promised. So we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
And this is the second episode of a 27.
I hope you weren't on my face this whole time.
I don't really know where I'm going with this.
Shout out to Rachel. I was like, how do we jump back in?